Question 1. In California, which of the following actions is strictly prohibited regarding the storage of a handgun in a residence where a minor is likely to gain access? A. Storing it in a locked container with the ammunition stored separately. B. Storing it unloaded with a trigger lock, but not in a locked container. C. Storing it loaded in a locked container. D. Storing it loaded and accessible without any locking device. Answer: D. Storing it loaded and accessible without any locking device. California law specifically requires that firearms stored in a residence where a child or prohibited person could gain access must be secured with a locking device or stored in a locked container. Storing a loaded firearm without any safety device, making it easily accessible, is a direct violation of California's safe storage laws, particularly when a minor could access it. Ensuring firearms are always secured prevents tragic accidents and unauthorized access. Always secure firearms, especially from curious children. Question 2. Under California law, what is generally required for a non-prohibited person to transport a handgun in a vehicle? A. It must be loaded and carried openly in the passenger compartment. B. It must be unloaded and locked in the trunk of the vehicle. C. It must be unloaded and in a locked container, which can be in the passenger compartment. D. It must be loaded and secured under the driver's seat. Answer: C. It must be unloaded and in a locked container, which can be in the passenger compartment. California law dictates that a handgun being transported in a vehicle must be unloaded and placed in a locked container. This container can be in the trunk or within the passenger compartment, provided it is truly locked. This regulation aims to prevent easy access to loaded firearms during transport, enhancing public safety. Always ensure your firearm is unloaded and securely locked away when transporting it to comply with state laws. Question 3. A California resident purchases a new handgun from a licensed firearm dealer, FFL. What is the minimum waiting period before the purchaser can take possession of the firearm? A. 5 calendar days. B. 10 calendar days. C. 15 calendar days. D. 30 calendar days. Answer: B. 10 calendar days. In California, a mandatory 10 calendar day waiting period applies to all firearm purchases, including handguns, made through a licensed dealer. This period allows for background checks to be thoroughly completed and provides a cooling-off period, intended to prevent impulsive acts of violence. Understanding this waiting period is crucial for anyone planning to acquire a firearm legally in the state. Always plan for this waiting period when buying a firearm from a dealer. Question 4. Which of the following conditions must typically be met for a person to legally use deadly force in self-defense in California? A. The person reasonably believes they are in imminent danger of suffering great bodily injury or death. B. The person has attempted to retreat from the threat, even if it increases their risk. C. The threat involves only an unarmed assailant. D. The person is specifically licensed to use deadly force. Answer: A. The person reasonably believes they are in imminent danger of suffering great bodily injury or death. California law permits the use of deadly force in self-defense when an individual has a reasonable belief that they are in imminent danger of great bodily injury or death. The reasonable belief standard means that an ordinary, prudent person in the same situation would also believe such danger existed. This principle establishes the threshold for when the ultimate act of self-preservation is legally justifiable. Always remember that deadly force is a last resort, used only when facing an immediate, life-threatening danger. Question 5. Under California law, what is the legal definition of an assault weapon for rifles, which are generally prohibited for civilian possession, referring to specific characteristics? A. Any rifle capable of accepting a detachable magazine. B. A rifle with a fixed magazine capacity greater than 10 rounds. C. A semi-automatic rifle with certain prohibited features, e.g., pistol grip, flash suppressor, if it has a detachable magazine, or a fixed magazine greater than 10 rounds. D. Any rifle that fires a projectile exceeding a certain velocity. Answer: C. A semi-automatic rifle with certain prohibited features, e.g., pistol grip, flash suppressor, if it has a detachable magazine, or a fixed magazine greater than 10 rounds. California's definition of an assault weapon for rifles is complex, primarily targeting semi-automatic rifles that combine specific military-style features, like a pistol grip, flash suppressor, or adjustable stock, with a detachable magazine. Additionally, rifles with a fixed magazine capacity exceeding 10 rounds can also be classified as assault weapons. These classifications are central to California's strict firearm regulations and are crucial for legal compliance. Always thoroughly research specific firearm features to ensure they comply with California's assault weapon definitions before purchase or modification. Question 6. A California resident with a valid concealed carry weapon, CCW, license is pulled over for a traffic stop. What is the most appropriate action regarding their concealed firearm? A. Immediately exit the vehicle with hands raised. B. Keep hands visible, inform the officer of the CCW and the firearm's location, and await instructions. C. Keep the firearm out of sight and do not mention it unless asked directly. D. Hand the firearm to the officer through the window. Answer: B. Keep hands visible, inform the officer of the CCW and the firearm's location, and await instructions. For a CCW holder during a traffic stop, transparency and compliance are key to ensuring safety for all involved. Keeping hands visible, calmly informing the officer about the CCW license and the firearm's location, and then waiting for specific instructions demonstrates responsible behavior and prevents misunderstandings. This proactive disclosure builds trust and helps the officer maintain control of the situation, leading to a smoother interaction. Always prioritize communication and compliance during law enforcement encounters when carrying a concealed firearm. Question 7. What is the primary purpose of a safe handling demonstration required during a firearm purchase in California? A. To prove the buyer can shoot accurately at a range. B. To ensure the buyer understands basic firearm nomenclature. C. To verify the buyer's physical ability to safely load, unload, and operate the firearm. D. To confirm the buyer has taken an advanced firearm training course. Answer: C. To verify the buyer's physical ability to safely load, unload, and operate the firearm. The safe handling demonstration, required as part of the Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, process in California, serves to ensure that the prospective firearm owner can physically and competently perform fundamental safety actions with the specific firearm being purchased. This includes demonstrating the ability to load, unload, and clear the firearm, ensuring the buyer can safely manipulate it under supervision. This practical test is a vital step in promoting responsible firearm ownership. Always practice safe handling procedures until they become second nature. Question 8. In California, what is the general age requirement to purchase a handgun from a licensed firearm dealer? A. 18 years old. B. 21 years old. C. 25 years old. D. 30 years old. Answer: B. 21 years old. Federal and California laws generally require an individual to be at least 21 years old to purchase a handgun from a licensed firearm dealer. This age restriction is in place to enhance public safety by limiting handgun access to adults considered to have greater maturity and judgment. Understanding this age requirement is fundamental for anyone considering acquiring a handgun legally in California. Remember to always verify age requirements when considering a firearm purchase. Question 9. Which of the following statements best describes the castle doctrine in California regarding the use of deadly force? A. It eliminates the duty to retreat only when outside of one's home. B. It establishes a legal presumption that a person has a reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily injury when an intruder unlawfully enters their occupied residence. C. It permits the use of deadly force against any trespasser on one's property. D. It requires a verbal warning before using deadly force against an intruder in the home. Answer: B. It establishes a legal presumption that a person has a reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily injury when an intruder unlawfully enters their occupied residence. California's Castle Doctrine provides a legal presumption, often referred to as a rebuttable presumption, that a person inside their occupied home has a reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily injury if an intruder unlawfully and forcibly enters. This presumption means the homeowner typically does not have a duty to retreat within their own home before using deadly force against such an intruder. This important legal concept reinforces the right to defend oneself and family in one's sanctuary. Always understand that this presumption applies specifically to unlawful entry into an occupied residence and does not grant unlimited permission to use deadly force. Question 10. According to California law, what is the maximum capacity for a magazine that can be legally purchased or possessed by most civilians, with limited exceptions? A. 7 rounds. B. 10 rounds. C. 15 rounds. D. No limit, as long as it fits the firearm. Answer: B. 10 rounds. California law generally prohibits the purchase, receipt, manufacture, or possession of magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds of ammunition, with limited exceptions such as for law enforcement or pre-existing, high-capacity magazines legally acquired before specific dates. This regulation is a significant aspect of California's strict firearm control laws aimed at reducing gun violence. Always verify that any magazines you purchase or possess comply with California's 10-round capacity limit. Question 11. Which of the following is not an essential component of the 4 fundamental rules of firearm safety? A. Treat every firearm as if it were loaded. B. Always keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction. C. Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on the target and you are ready to shoot. D. Always use the cheapest ammunition available. Answer: D. Always use the cheapest ammunition available. The 4 fundamental rules of firearm safety are: 1. Treat every firearm as if it were loaded. 2. Always keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction. 3. Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on the target and you are ready to shoot. And 4. Be sure of your target and what is beyond it. The cost of ammunition has no bearing on firearm safety practices. Adhering to these 4 core rules is paramount for preventing accidental discharges and promoting responsible firearm handling. Prioritize safety over cost when selecting ammunition, ensuring it is appropriate for your firearm. Question 12. If a firearm is lost or stolen in California, what is generally required of the owner? A. No action is required by law, but it is recommended to report. B. The owner must report the loss or theft to a local law enforcement agency within 5 days of discovering it. C. The owner must report the loss or theft to a local law enforcement agency within 10 days of discovering it. D. The owner must report the loss or theft to the Department of Justice within 24 hours. Answer: B. The owner must report the loss or theft to a local law enforcement agency within 5 days of discovering it. California law requires firearm owners to report the loss or theft of any firearm to a local law enforcement agency within 5 days of discovering the loss or theft. This mandatory reporting helps prevent stolen firearms from being used in crimes and aids law enforcement in tracking them. Promptly reporting a lost or stolen firearm is a critical responsibility of gun ownership. Question 13. Which of the following is considered an unsafe handgun under California's Unsafe Handgun Act and therefore generally cannot be sold by FFLs to civilians in California? A. A handgun without a chamber load indicator. B. A handgun without a magazine disconnect mechanism. C. A handgun without a microstamping array, if manufactured after a certain date. D. All of the above are features that classify a handgun as unsafe for retail sale in California, if required by law for that model. Answer: D. All of the above are features that classify a handgun as unsafe for retail sale in California, if required by law for that model. California's Unsafe Handgun Act, also known as the Handgun Roster, mandates that handguns sold by FFLs to civilians must meet specific safety criteria, which have evolved over time. These criteria include requiring a chamber load indicator, a magazine disconnect mechanism, and for newer models, microstamping technology. Handguns lacking these features, if required for their specific category or date of manufacture, are considered unsafe and cannot be sold retail. This complex set of regulations aims to enhance handgun safety, and it is crucial for buyers to understand the features required for legal retail sale. Question 14. When engaging in dry practice, practicing firearm handling without live ammunition, what is the single most important safety rule to follow? A. Use snap caps or dummy rounds in the chamber. B. Always perform dry practice in a well-lit area. C. Ensure no live ammunition is present in the practice area. D. Have a qualified instructor supervise the session. Answer: C. Ensure no live ammunition is present in the practice area. The paramount safety rule for dry practice is to absolutely ensure that no live ammunition is present in the same room or area where you are practicing with the firearm. Mixing live ammunition with dry practice is a common cause of negligent discharges. Keeping live rounds completely separate eliminates the risk of accidentally loading a live round, making dry practice a safe and effective training method. Always double-check and clear your practice space of all live ammunition. Question 15. A person is subject to a temporary gun violence restraining order, GVRO, in California. What does this order generally require them to do? A. Attend mandatory firearm safety training. B. Surrender all firearms and ammunition in their possession to law enforcement or sell them to an FFL. C. Pay a fine and register all firearms they own. D. Obtain a new firearm safety certificate. Answer: B. Surrender all firearms and ammunition in their possession to law enforcement or sell them to an FFL. A gun violence restraining order, GVRO, in California is a legal tool designed to temporarily remove firearms and ammunition from individuals deemed to be a danger to themselves or others. When a GVRO is issued, the subject is legally required to immediately surrender all firearms and ammunition in their possession to law enforcement or sell them to a licensed firearm dealer, FFL. This crucial measure aims to prevent potential violence by temporarily disarming individuals in crisis. Always comply immediately with a GVRO to avoid further legal penalties. Question 16. What is the primary purpose of a Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, in California? A. To serve as a license to carry a concealed weapon. B. To demonstrate knowledge of basic firearm laws and safety for purchasing/acquiring firearms. C. To register all firearms owned by an individual. D. To certify advanced proficiency in marksmanship. Answer: B. To demonstrate knowledge of basic firearm laws and safety for purchasing/acquiring firearms. The Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, is a prerequisite in California for most individuals to purchase or acquire a firearm. It certifies that the holder has passed a written test demonstrating their knowledge of fundamental firearm safety rules, safe handling procedures, and California-specific firearm laws. The FSC is a foundational component of responsible gun ownership in the state, ensuring a baseline level of safety knowledge among firearm owners. Always obtain and maintain a valid FSC if you plan to purchase or acquire firearms in California. Question 17. Which of the following locations is generally prohibited for carrying a loaded or unloaded firearm, even with a concealed carry weapon, CCW, permit, in California? A. Public parks. B. Private businesses with "No Guns" signs. C. Within 1,000 feet of a K-12 school. D. State-licensed hunting areas. Answer: C. Within 1,000 feet of a K-12 school. California law, specifically the Gun-Free School Zone Act, generally prohibits carrying firearms, whether loaded or unloaded, within 1,000 feet of a K-12 public or private school, with very limited exceptions for law enforcement or specific permits. This gun-free zone is a significant restriction aimed at enhancing safety around educational institutions. Even with a CCW, you must be aware of and avoid these sensitive areas when carrying a firearm. Question 18. When cleaning a firearm, what is the most critical safety step to perform before beginning the cleaning process? A. Put on safety glasses and gloves. B. Read the owner's manual for cleaning instructions. C. Ensure the firearm is unloaded and cleared, and confirm no ammunition is present in the cleaning area. D. Disassemble the firearm completely. Answer: C. Ensure the firearm is unloaded and cleared, and confirm no ammunition is present in the cleaning area. Before starting any cleaning or maintenance on a firearm, the absolute most critical safety step is to ensure the firearm is unloaded and completely clear of any ammunition, and that no live ammunition is present in the cleaning area. This prevents accidental discharges during handling or disassembly. Treating every firearm as if it's loaded and verifying it's clear is the cornerstone of firearm safety. Always make clear and safe your first action before cleaning or inspecting a firearm. Question 19. In California, what is generally required for the lawful acquisition of ammunition? A. The purchaser must be at least 18 years old and pass an instant background check. B. The purchaser must be at least 21 years old and possess a valid Firearm Safety Certificate. C. The purchaser must be at least 21 years old and pass a point-of-sale eligibility check through a licensed vendor. D. The purchaser must be a registered firearm owner. Answer: C. The purchaser must be at least 21 years old and pass a point-of-sale eligibility check through a licensed vendor. California law requires that individuals purchasing ammunition must be at least 21 years old and pass an eligibility check performed by a licensed ammunition vendor at the point of sale. This background check verifies that the purchaser is not prohibited from possessing ammunition. These regulations are designed to prevent ammunition from falling into the hands of individuals legally prohibited from possessing firearms. Always be prepared to provide identification and pass an eligibility check when purchasing ammunition in California. Question 20. What is the legal implication of possessing an unregistered firearm in California, specifically if it was acquired through a legal private party transfer before the universal registration requirement? A. All firearms in California must be registered. Possession of an unregistered firearm is always illegal. B. Firearms acquired through legal private party transfers before certain dates may not be registered, but are not necessarily illegal to possess if the transfer was legal at the time. C. Unregistered firearms must be turned over to law enforcement immediately. D. Only firearms used in crimes are considered unregistered. Answer: B. Firearms acquired through legal private party transfers before certain dates may not be registered, but are not necessarily illegal to possess if the transfer was legal at the time. California's firearm registration laws have evolved significantly, particularly with the implementation of universal background checks for private party transfers. While most firearms acquired today must be processed through an FFL and result in registration, firearms acquired through legal private party transfers before these universal requirements took effect might not be registered in the modern sense but are not inherently illegal to possess. The legality hinges on whether the acquisition itself was lawful at the time it occurred. It is crucial to understand that simply possessing a firearm not on a state registry does not automatically make it illegal if acquired lawfully in the past. Question 21. When a firearm is stored in a home with children, what is the recommended practice for ammunition? A. Store ammunition in the same locked container as the firearm for quick access. B. Keep ammunition readily accessible but separate from the firearm. C. Store ammunition in a separate, locked container from the firearm. D. Store ammunition unlocked, as long as the firearm is locked. Answer: C. Store ammunition in a separate, locked container from the firearm. For maximum safety, especially in homes with children, it is highly recommended to store ammunition in a separate, locked container from the firearm itself. This additional layer of security makes it much more difficult for unauthorized individuals, particularly children, to gain access to both the firearm and ammunition simultaneously. Separating and locking ammunition is a key practice for preventing accidental shootings and ensuring responsible firearm storage. Always secure both your firearm and ammunition independently. Question 22. Which of the following situations would generally not justify the use of deadly force in self-defense under California law? A. An attacker attempts to break into your occupied home with a weapon. B. You are reasonably fearful of suffering great bodily injury or death from an assailant. C. An individual is attempting to steal your car, but poses no immediate threat to your life or safety. D. A person initiates an unprovoked attack that causes you significant physical harm. Answer: C. An individual is attempting to steal your car, but poses no immediate threat to your life or safety. Under California law, the use of deadly force is generally justifiable only when an individual reasonably believes they are in imminent danger of great bodily injury or death. While protecting property is permissible, the law typically does not allow the use of deadly force solely to prevent theft of property, like a car, if there is no immediate threat to personal safety. The value of human life takes precedence over property, making deadly force for mere property defense legally problematic. Always remember that the threat must be to life or limb, not just property, to justify deadly force. Question 23. What is the legal requirement regarding the reporting of stolen firearms in California? A. Reporting is voluntary but encouraged by law enforcement. B. Stolen firearms must be reported within 24 hours to the Department of Justice. C. Stolen firearms must be reported to a local law enforcement agency within 5 days of discovery. D. Stolen firearms only need to be reported if they were used in a crime. Answer: C. Stolen firearms must be reported to a local law enforcement agency within 5 days of discovery. California law mandates that any firearm owner whose firearm is lost or stolen must report that loss or theft to a local law enforcement agency within 5 days of discovering the incident. This requirement is in place to help law enforcement track firearms that may be used in crimes and to hold owners accountable for securing their weapons. Prompt reporting is a critical responsibility that aids public safety and law enforcement efforts. Question 24. A person who is legally prohibited from possessing a firearm in California because of a felony conviction attempts to purchase a handgun from an FFL. What will occur? A. The purchase will proceed, but the firearm will be registered as a prohibited person's weapon. B. The FFL will complete the sale, but notify law enforcement of the conviction. C. The background check will flag the felony conviction, and the sale will be denied. D. The person will be offered a special permit to override the prohibition. Answer: C. The background check will flag the felony conviction, and the sale will be denied. Individuals with felony convictions are legally prohibited from possessing firearms under both federal and California law. When a prohibited person attempts to purchase a firearm from a licensed firearm dealer, FFL, the mandatory background check conducted by the California Department of Justice, DOJ, will identify their prohibitive status, resulting in an immediate denial of the sale. This system is a cornerstone of firearm regulation, preventing firearms from reaching individuals legally deemed a risk. Always remember that background checks are designed to enforce legal prohibitions on firearm possession. Question 25. For a California concealed carry weapon, CCW, permit holder, what is the legal requirement regarding interaction with law enforcement if carrying concealed? A. they must immediately draw their firearm to show the officer their permit. B. They are legally required to notify the officer of the firearm's presence upon initial contact during an official stop. C. They only need to disclose the firearm's presence if directly asked by the officer. D. They should remain silent about the firearm unless they plan to use it. Answer: B. They are legally required to notify the officer of the firearm's presence upon initial contact during an official stop. In California, a concealed carry weapon (CCW) permit holder is legally required to notify a peace officer of the presence of their concealed firearm upon any initial contact during an official stop or detention. This proactive disclosure is crucial for officer safety and to avoid misunderstandings, as it establishes transparency early in the interaction. Failing to notify an officer can lead to serious consequences, highlighting the importance of clear communication. Always inform law enforcement about your CCW and firearm during official contact, keeping your hands visible and following all commands. Question 26. What is the purpose of a safety check before handling any firearm? A. To ensure the firearm is clean and lubricated. B. To confirm the firearm's serial number matches ownership documents. C. To verify the firearm is unloaded and safe to handle. D. To adjust the sights for accuracy. Answer: C. To verify the firearm is unloaded and safe to handle. A safety check is a fundamental and critical procedure performed before handling any firearm, specifically to verify that it is unloaded and therefore safe to handle, inspect, or store. This process typically involves visually and physically inspecting the chamber, magazine well, and cylinder to confirm the absence of ammunition. This adherence to basic safety protocols is paramount in preventing negligent discharges and ensuring responsible firearm interaction. Always perform a thorough safety check to confirm a firearm is unloaded before any manipulation. Question 27. When storing a firearm in a California residence to prevent unauthorized access by a child, what is an acceptable method according to state law? A. Storing the firearm unloaded and hidden under a bed. B. Storing the firearm loaded in a locked gun safe. C. Storing the firearm unloaded with a cable lock, but accessible on a shelf. D. Storing the firearm unloaded in an unlocked closet. Answer: B. Storing the firearm loaded in a locked gun safe. California law mandates that firearms stored in a residence where a child or prohibited person could gain access must be secured with a locking device or stored in a locked container. Storing a loaded firearm in a locked gun safe fully complies with this requirement, as the safe itself serves as the locked container, preventing unauthorized access. This legal requirement emphasizes the importance of secure storage to prevent tragic accidents. Always ensure your firearms are securely locked away, especially in homes with children. Question 28. Which type of ammunition is generally prohibited for possession and sale to civilians in California due to its potential for extreme danger to law enforcement? A. Frangible ammunition. B. Lead-free ammunition. C. Armor-piercing handgun ammunition. D. Hollow-point ammunition. Answer: C. Armor-piercing handgun ammunition. California law, consistent with federal regulations, generally prohibits the possession and sale of armor-piercing handgun ammunition to civilians. This type of ammunition is designed to penetrate bullet-resistant materials, posing a significant and unjustifiable threat to law enforcement officers and public safety. These prohibitions are critical measures to limit access to dangerously effective ammunition types. Always be aware of and comply with restrictions on specialized ammunition types. Question 29. A person holding a Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, must renew it. How long is an FSC valid for in California? A. 1 year. B. 3 years. C. 5 years. D. 10 years. Answer: C. 5 years. In California, a Firearm Safety Certificate, FSC, is valid for a period of 5 years from the date of issuance. After this period, if an individual wishes to purchase or acquire another firearm, they must obtain a new FSC by retaking the safety test. This renewal requirement ensures that firearm owners periodically refresh their knowledge of current safety practices and California's evolving firearm laws. Always keep track of your FSC's expiration date to ensure continued compliance. Question 30. What is the fundamental principle behind California's unsafe handgun roster? A. To limit the number of handgun models available for sale. B. To ensure all handguns sold in California incorporate specific safety features deemed necessary by the state. C. To categorize handguns based on their caliber and stopping power. D. To ban all handguns that are not manufactured in California. Answer: B. To ensure all handguns sold in California incorporate specific safety features deemed necessary by the state. The core principle behind California's unsafe handgun roster, officially known as the roster of certified handguns, is to mandate that all new handgun models sold by licensed dealers to civilians in the state must pass specific safety testing and incorporate certain safety features. These features include, but are not limited to, chamber load indicators, magazine disconnect mechanisms, and, for newer models, microstamping technology. The roster aims to enhance the safety of handguns available to the public by requiring these specific design elements. Always check the roster before considering a new handgun purchase to ensure it is compliant with California's safety standards.